Have you ever clicked a link, ended up on a website, and just felt completely and utterly lost? It's basically the digital equivalent of a grocery store that decides to rearrange its aisles every single week. You're just wandering through this maze with no exit signs, clicking endless menus, all just to find one simple piece of information. We've literally all been there, right? It's incredibly frustrating. But that confusion doesn't just happen by accident. It happens because of a lack of planning. Fixing it, and really preventing it in the first place, requires a special kind of thinker. You need a digital architect. So, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of information architecture and navigation design. Our core mission here is to figure out exactly how we can transform those chaotic, abstract web spaces into organized, highly functional digital buildings that users actually enjoy navigating. Here's our blueprint for today's explainer. We're going to run through the 5 stages of IA, learn how to master card sorting protocols, design structural navigation systems, choose a website blueprint, and finally take the whole thing from wireframes to reality. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the 5 stages of IA and how we build that foundation. Okay, let's dive into this. Think of this phase just like a traditional architect surveying a plot of land before pouring even a single drop of concrete. But what exactly does that look like in the digital world? Well, information architecture, or IA, is a really rigorous process. It involves deep research, building taxonomies, mapping out layouts, and, this is absolutely crucial, validation with real users. An information architect doesn't just, guess where a button should go. They use a very deliberate process to make sure every single piece of digital real estate has a clear, designated purpose. So, this entire life cycle breaks down into 5 structured stages. It kicks off with customer research, which is really just analyzing how a real person actually interacts with a product. Second, we update and review content. Third, we bring in card sorting to establish clear classification and terminology. Fourth, we draft the actual website hierarchy. And finally, stage 5, the UI prototype. It's this continuous, flowing journey from raw user data straight to a tangible blueprint. I want to briefly zoom in on stage 2 here, because before you build anything, you have to know exactly what materials you're working with, right? We tackle this in 2 steps. First is a content inventory. This is literally a massive, complete list of all your information assets. Every heading, every paragraph, media file, URL, you name it, you have to list it all. But then comes the content audit. This is the fun part, where we trim the fat, we scrap unneeded items, and modernize the relevant data so the whole thing is perfectly prepped for category grouping. Moving right along to section 2, mastering card sorting protocols, or as I like to call it, organizing the chaos. Once we know exactly what content we're keeping, we have to organize it so our users don't get a massive headache trying to find things. Enter card sorting. It's such a fascinating usability method. Basically, you take 15 to 20 participants and hand them 30 to 60 content cards. Their task? Group those cards into logical folders that make sense to them. You aren't forcing your own perspective onto the user. You're actively learning from theirs. Digital architects will use physical index cards or even specialized software tools like Optimal Sort or User Zoom to create a really clear user-driven taxonomy. Now, what's really interesting about this is how we actually choose our sorting method. It's based entirely on the boundaries of the project. For instance, open card sorting lets users create their own custom labels, which is perfect for brand new digital products. Closed sorting, on the other hand, forces users into predefined categories, which is ideal if you're restructuring or redesigning an existing site. And hybrid? Well, that just combines both for those really highly complex ecosystems. Okay, on to section 3. Structural navigation design systems and how we guide the user. So now that all our materials are logically grouped, we have to design the hallways. The best navigation is entirely invisible when it works well. We use 4 main design frameworks to pull that off. First is hierarchical navigation. This is your classic top-down parent-to-child folder setup. Think of those hover drop-downs you see on mega menus. Next is global or site-wide navigation. These are menus present across every single page of the site, like a fixed top header or sticky footer. Then we have local navigation, which gives context-specific menus tied to an isolated cluster, kind of like a side submenu. And contextual navigation? Those are direct inline links built right into the standard content. A perfect example of this is the related products widget you see on an e-commerce page. It's really all about giving the user the exact right door at the exact right time. Section 4, choosing your website blueprint. Let's look at structure. Before we can finalize our sitemap, we really have to lock in an overarching architectural pattern. So, which one is right? Well, it depends completely on the scale and goal of your digital project. The single-page model is built for one specific purpose, like a quick promotional landing page or an app download anchor. A flat structure is this very minimal linear hierarchy that works best for simple corporate brochure websites. Then there's the index pages pattern, where a core homepage branches out into equally important, clean subpages. This is actually the most common layout you're going to encounter. Next up is the strict hierarchy pattern, and this one is absolutely mandatory for massive, high-volume environments, like complex e-commerce networks or giant media publications. And finally, the coexisting hierarchies pattern unites multiple organizational structures when you have overlapping information. Now, a crucial point here is understanding the difference between mapping ideas and mapping boundaries. Mind mapping acts as an educational associative diagram. It shows relationships between features and back-end functions. It's very exploratory. But once all that is finalized, it translates directly into a sitemap. A sitemap is a clear structural flowchart showing exact content classification hierarchies. This is the document that establishes the actual hard project boundaries that you share with developers and stakeholders. All right, let's move into our final phase, Section 5, from wireframes to reality. So how on earth do we take all these abstract diagrams and build a tangible interface? We do it through wireframes. While a sitemap shows how pages link together, a wireframe acts as the very first structural design draft of the interface layout itself. It renders your text headers, buttons, and those familiar gray content box placeholders just to show how navigation will physically appear on the screen. Wireframes perfectly bridge the massive gap between information architects and UI/UX designers. And they're tested with users to check for absolute clarity, using specialized design suites like Balsamic, Fluid UI, or Just in Mind, long before anyone even thinks about graphic design. And then the final step before the whole shebang goes live is data modeling. This is where your approved structural wireframe layout is physically linked into a database or set up directly inside a content management system, a CMS. Whether you're building in WordPress, Squarespace, or Wix, this data modeling step acts as the actual live development launchpad for your functioning product. Okay, let's actually put all this theory into action. We're going to do a quick practical workshop activity right here. We're going to structurally draw out a standard higher education university homepage layout just to see how all these invisible architectural pieces fit together in the real world. And honestly, this just brilliantly illustrates our theories in practice. Look at how these 7 specific zones function. The brand logo isn't just there to look pretty, it acts as standard contextual navigation, routing the user straight back to the homepage. The global main menu offers a clear hierarchical layout for things like admissions and courses. Then you have a search bar acting as an index parsing query box. Right below that is your focal hero banner image, which is followed by a dynamic news and events feed, quick links for utility navigation, and finally the site footer. That footer provides global, site-wide legal and contact utility mapping that is present on every single page. Literally every element on the screen has a deliberate architectural purpose. So I'm going to leave you with this final kind of provocative thought. The next time you open your absolute favorite app or browse a website you visit every single day, just take 1 second and ask yourself, what structural pattern is hiding right there behind the screen? How did the digital architect design those invisible hallways to guide your journey? Once you see it, it completely changes how you view the digital world. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep exploring those digital architectures, and I will catch you next time.